Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is the Closing Bell, where myself and Scott will try to get you closer to the window and hopefully steer you in the right direction on some games tonight that you might be looking at, or future series plays in the MLB, or maybe this weekend in the college or the NFL ranks. So without further ado, my co-host from the Palm Tree State himself, the one and only Mr. Scott E. Webb. Scotty, my brother, what is happening?
Jeff, how are you today, my friend? What is it? It's Friday, so we made it to the weekend, right?
Yes, we did, and action's hot and heavy. We've had a crazy show, or actually a crazy day here. Fridays, usually Andrew McGinnis comes on from McGinnis Picks and Wager Talk. We get at least a half hour, 45 minutes of NHL right now, sometimes some CFL and NFL and whatever we talk about. And then next thing you know, we have the real Vegas Dave on for another 45 minutes to an hour afterward. And last night we debuted actually a couple times this week, the Closing Bell, what I like to say. We've been hot. You know, earlier this week we talked about UL Lafayette. Last night we talked about South Alabama, the Okie Dokie, and that was a box to wire. Had a few listeners reach out asking about NHL. I talked about the Seattle Kraken, and they got their first win. We talked about the Dodgers, who hell of a series. Hats off to San Fran. Just tough way to go out. You know, he did not swing. We all know that. We don't have to go into that. But that's for another day. But tonight, I mean, there's a handful of college games. Sox Astros open up. Tomorrow, Dodgers travel to Atlanta. The stage is yours. Give us a little intro, where you are, what you're thinking, and help us out.
Well, we'll start with college football just to get that platter off the plate. Yesterday was a pretty good find. I mean, I don't think that many people know about South Alabama, and they showed up and they won that game handily yesterday. So it was no issues. I think they had 500 total yards, Jeff, and the other team had 200 total yards. So it was just a mismatch all the way around. Today there's some interesting things going on, right? So Clemson plays Syracuse today, but I like the idea that Clemson maybe gets a little bit more right today, but I don't like backing that without seeing it. So this is a game where I think if you really want to play this game, you want to watch the game and play it live, right? So I would tell you that Clemson, no matter what you think of them, they can still play defense. And Syracuse doesn't play either offense or defense, really. I mean, they're not a terrible team, but they're not like, they're not an upper echelon team by any stretch. So I kind of look at this game as, let's see what kind of wrinkles or what things that Clemson's doing now that they had a bye week. That gives them a chance to breathe. That gives them a chance to put some stuff in for this quarterback that's been struggling and all their offense all together. So I kind of like the idea to just kind of wait and see what happens here. I would tell you that if they go right down the field and score, kick a field goal or something like that, hopefully just play them. It doesn't matter what the line's going to, just play them, because they're going to have their offense ready to go. Because they don't do that anymore. They don't go right down the field and score. So if they go right down the field and score, I think Syracuse is going to struggle to score. So I think you're still going to be okay. I mean, the number's 13. If they go down and kick a field goal or something, you might have to cover 16, 17, something like that. But keep that in mind, that I think that that's a good indicator that after the first series or so, and you got the whole game to go, that this team's ready to play. Now, I'm more interested in the California-Oregon game than I am any of the other games. That game opened, I think it opened at like 15. I think it's like 13 or 13 and a half, something like that right now, with Oregon as the favorite. What I like about this game is I like the under in this game. It's at 53 and a half. And yeah, I know Oregon can score points. But Oregon is really banged up. They've got their talented running back Vardell. He is out. The backup guy, his name is Ty or Jai or something. Die is his last name. That kid's pretty good, but he got banged up the last game, and he's questionable to play this game. And their next best guy, he's out for the season too. So they had a stable of really, really good running backs that maybe they're down to 0 running backs in terms of the elite guys that they have on their team. But they're also missing 3 or 4 defensive players, and they have guys on the offensive line that's not there. And then you flip the side over to the California side. They got issues with injuries too. But they're both teams are off a bye week. So that tends for me to believe they're going to be a little more rested. They're going to be a little more ready to play. They're going to be a little more defensively ready than offensively ready. So I like the idea here that these two teams coming off a bye week gets the lower end of these numbers. I could see this game being, 49-50 kind of total instead of 53 and a half. I'm not saying it's the greatest game in the world, but of the games tonight, that's the one I like. I think San Diego State's number is too large. I think people are betting on them crazy. I think San Jose State's the right way to go, but I'm not going to put my money on that. And then the Marshall line, I think, is pretty accurate. So when it comes to the football side, I kind of like the idea Clemson's going to have a good game tonight if they just go out and run ragged the first series. And I like the California in the Oregon game to go under in college football.
When I break down these games, what I try to do is, again, try to peel as many layers back as we can to try to figure out exactly where they're going with this game. So I'll take the Clemson-Syracuse game. Opened at 14 at Pinnacle, 45 and a hook, down to 13 and a half now, 13 in some spots with a 44 and a half. Okay, so now I take it a step further and I look at some team totals. Okay, you got Clemson here at 29 and a half, juiced under 136. Okay, and you got a Syracuse at 15 and a half, juiced under 132. So I think of this and I say basically in a nutshell, Clemson's going to get you 27 or 28 tonight. That's what they're telling you. Okay. If they get 30, 31, that's a bonus. Now, Syracuse holds the key here. Okay. They got them at 15 and a half under 132. And that's a tricky line here because people are going to say, okay, well, Syracuse can score 2 touchdowns and I still cover this. Okay. When looking at the team total. So do they get 13? Do they get 14? Or do they get 17? Okay. And talking to Dave this afternoon, he brought up a great point. If Clemson's up 14-0 or 21-0, you're taking that field goal most likely out of play. Mm-hmm. So your team total there again is predicated. We were talking about the Georgia-Kentucky game at length about this. Kentucky's team total is 9.5 over. Well, again, if they're down 21-0, how many field goals are they going to be kicking? And so I think you're looking at here at a 28-14, 28-13, or is it going to be 30-31-17? So that's where that under-over comes into play there, Scotty.
Yeah, that game I think is a really low total. In a college football game to show 44, and especially with a Clemson out there, I think that's. They haven't shown anything on offense all year. I don't expect them to be this dynamite offensive team. I don't expect it, but they got quality kids. I mean, they're recruiting good players. And I think this bye week's going to help them. I just don't think that that's going to be a game that I'm going to look at unless they go crazy in that first drive. And anything happens in these Pac-12 games, but I do like that under 53.5. It was 55.5. So I don't think you're getting a bad number at 53.5. I mean, 54 is more or less a key number, but college football, it's not quite the same as pro football that way. So I don't really see it as quite that way. So I like the under in that game. And then I looked at Major League Baseball, and you got Framber Valdez going tonight against Chris Sale. So some interesting things. So trying to study Chris Sale and figure out where he's at and what's going on, because he's had some pretty good outings. And then he's had a couple that he didn't go so far. So his velocity is not a problem. It's not 97, 98 like it was before the injury. And if you remember, he did have that 1 year there where everybody was wondering what the hell's going on with him, because his velocity dropped from 97, 98 to 94. That's where it is now. It's 94. So right before the injury, it was 93. So I don't think he's having any issues there. So I started looking at movement on the ball, and where he's having some issues is what they call horizontal axis movement. So moving it from one side of the plate to the other side of the plate, it's less dramatic on his slider, and his fastball doesn't move as much. Now it drops the same. So his vertical is the same, but his horizontal is not. So that makes it a little bit less devastating of pitches to hit, if you want to say it that way. But then you flip the switch and you look at Valdez. Valdez pitched 2 games against the Red Sox this year. I mean, they played him 6 times, and he pitched twice against them. As a matter of fact, it was a weird scenario. He pitched against them back-to-back starts, and he did great in both starts. I don't necessarily think that'll be the case tonight. I just think that that's an interesting thing, that he bucked the trend of when you face a team and then face them the second time, that second time that you do worse. So his numbers indicate that balls are going to be put in play. He's a strikeout guy, but not a big strikeout guy. He's very hittable. So he's not a big swing and miss type of pitcher. So that tends for me to believe that both offenses are going to be able to put balls in play. When you look at how the people do, or the players for the Astros against Chris Sale, Bregman and Altuve both hit him even when he was good. And Brantley hits him decently. So now that he's somewhat good, I think that you're running into the situation where he's going to get hit a little bit. And I think Framber Valdez is going to get hit a little bit. This number is only 8.5. I think that Houston will have the ability, because of the pitching matchups and sort of things, to have a deeper bullpen tonight. That doesn't mean it's any good. It's just a deeper bullpen tonight. And then I think Boston, because of their scenario and using these guys, might have a little lesser of a bullpen availability. But that might be the deal. You might see Chris Sale go 3 innings, 4 innings, and then they're going to bring in Houck or somebody like that to try to make this game go that way, with Evaldi going the next night. So I'm going to play this game over the 8.5. I think it's 8.5 right now. I don't think it's changed. It looks like 8.5. I'm going to play it over the 8.5.
Good evening to our buddy Billy Hewlin, Mr. Louisiana. Roll Tide, Billy. I want to squeeze back for 1 second, because when I was talking in the college, I kind of threw you a curveball. Much apologies. I was kind of breaking down an under-over for the Clemson Syracuse, but I really wasn't. It was more on what they're looking for the totals. But getting back to your Cal Oregon, again, 35.5 under, juiced 158. So again, you're going to probably get 30, 31 Do they get to 34 on the Oregon side? And they give you the carrot here, which is comical, 20.5 under 122. So they're baiting you to get to that 21 number. So again, you're probably looking at a 30, 31, 17 game, somewhere in that area. So hats off. And again, I do agree with you there as well. Getting to this series, from our VIPs, what we like to do is we don't like to get into each game. So what we try to do is latch onto a side on the series, let it play out a few games. But obviously, if we see an edge, everyone I've talked to, Scott, loves the over today. So I think you're right on point there as well. Locally, we don't know what we're getting from Sale. Cora's starting Sale for one reason only. He knows what he's going to get tomorrow from Evaldi. So if it's going to be some type of early exit from Sale, he'll rather tax the bullpen today than have to worry about taxing the bullpen tomorrow, because you're going to get more length, we hope, from Evaldi. Plus, if you get an inning in the third from Sale, he's only going to be a bullpen guy from the rest of the way on. We know what we're going to have from him. So we latched onto the Magic Beans and the Red Sox, plus the 125. Listen, I think this could blow up where Houston could just whitewash them. They have that much offense, and if they're starting pitching and bullpens clicking, we've seen this before. We know what to expect. But flipping the switch here, tell me if you agree or disagree. In a 2-3-2 series, if the Sox can get back to Houston, you got outs on a plus 125 series play with the Red Sox.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you've got a lot of options, but that means that for that to happen, they're going to have to win at least 2 games.
Correct. So the thought process is obviously if you're getting a split in Houston, and then you're going to at least hold some kind of serve, because you're not going to sweep the Astros in Fenway Park. And the Astros aren't going to sweep the Red Sox in Fenway Park. Though I've seen it. And I didn't think after we lost the first game to Tampa, you and I and the rest of the world, there was no way in hell the Red Sox will win in the next 3 against Tampa, correct?
No, I mean, baseball's baseball, man. I mean, you get to a point where momentum means a lot. And they seem to what do they say? You're only as good as the next game starter, right? I mean, that's what they say. And they say, good pitching beats good hitting. Well, all those adages and all that stuff, sometimes means something and other times doesn't. And I guess the way I see this series is, and we talked about it yesterday, I just think there's going to be balls in play. I think guys are going to hit the ball. I think Evaldi's the closest thing to an ace either team has. And I think that everybody else is going to get hit. And that's not disrespectful to the pitchers. I mean, these are just 2 good offenses. Both of them are hitting currently pretty well. And that matters because, the Dodgers can hit too, but the Dodgers didn't hit the Giants. They got there. And then they had to play the play-in game just to get to the Dodgers or to get to the Giants. So it's not easy to hit playoff pitching. And every pitch, every at bat is much more scrutinized, and every player who goes up to bat has a different level of focus and concentration during the playoff time. I don't want to say it's as crazy as watching the NHL when you see it. I mean, NHL playoff time is a totally different game than watching a regular season game. Baseball is similar only in the aspect that, there's times when you can really see players, batters in particular, and even pitchers, they don't really focus, and they miss pitches and they miss swings, and they don't give you quality at-bats. That really doesn't happen in playoff baseball. And that's where I think the experience matters, because those guys have gone through it. They've been through it. And the Red Sox have been there too. They just haven't been there as much as the Astros have. So it's just one of those things where I think this game or this series is all going to be offense. Of course, if you watch what happens, there'll be 3-1 each game. Everybody can't hit nobody, and everybody's Pedro Martinez this year. So, but it is what it is. I see it that way. I just think there's going to be a lot of offense. I think if you think about it this way, a normal National League game, the total is 8 or 8.5. A normal American League game, the total is 9 or 9.5. So this is not a normal National League game. This is an American League game with two of the best teams hitting. And it's only 8.5. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this game actually end on 10 or 11, 12, something like that run.
I'm going to lead in here. Kind of surprised. Opening number initially, as soon as the series the Dodgers won, was minus 185. Immediately shot to 205, 210. Have seen some 215s. Atlanta has the home field. Atlanta's rested. Atlanta, if I'm not wrong here, was up 3-1 against the Dodgers last year. So the books are making a statement saying, you want the Dodgers, you're going to pay for the Dodgers. When I see numbers like that, to me, they're begging for Brave money. Listen, most sensible people will take the Braves and try to wiggle their way out of it if they have to. Braves steal game 1, and then they lose game 2, and then they never get back. They never get back to Atlanta because game 3, 4, and 5 is in the Dodgers. Yes, Nando, we do know that, and thank you. Astros cheated. Let's go Dodgers. And AMC to the moon. Okay, there you go. We even get some crypto talk in here. But the thought is, again, when you look what the Dodgers have done all year, they clawed, they scratched. They couldn't get by the immovable object called the San Francisco Giants. And it took them 6 months and 5 games to finally do it. Okay. Holding an Atlanta plus 185 ticket. There's no shame in that. I haven't touched it. We haven't given out the series yet. But my point to you is initial thoughts with those numbers.
Well, I think the Dodgers are too high. I like the Dodgers over the Braves. I think the Braves are sitting pretty in the first 2 games. I think the Dodgers are going to have to come off of an emotional series, regroup, figure out who's pitching, what they've got going on, how that all is going to play out. I don't think the Braves have any of that problem. I don't think, the Braves had no issues with the talented pitching that the Brewers have. They hit them. It wouldn't surprise me if they played well against the Dodgers. Now, I think what will eventually happen here is I think that the Braves will play the first couple of games pretty good at home, and then I think it switches back. The Dodgers go and they just win it from that point forward. So, I think if you really like the Braves, you want to probably play the Braves the first couple of games. They might be home underdogs in the first couple of games. And then I think you can get a good price on them that way, or at least pick them anyway. And then I think you could probably, if you're looking at a series price, the price on the Dodgers is too high. And then you're going to end up, wouldn't it be something if you got the Dodgers and the Astros again? And the Dodgers would get their opportunity to get those cheating Astros out of the way. I mean, that's kind of the theme that would go in, right? And then you got no McCullers and no ace for the Astros going against the Dodgers aces that they can throw out there, and you probably get Muncy back, and I think that that's a big blow. I mean, if they can get Muncy to start playing, get him back and play, that helps them a lot.
It's going to be great. Both series are going to be great. Our objective tonight was to just get some lead-ins on the two college games that you talked about. Take a look at potentially in-game play on Clemson. See how they look coming off the bye week, and then you talked about the under in the Oregon game. Before we close, is there any early game? We're going to do our best to be on tomorrow morning, by the way. I'll talk after on that. Any early game tomorrow that's grabbed your eye at all, or a number that looks a little out of whack? I'll tell you this. Those noontime games, I can tell you this. Every time I ran to a window and played a noon game, I might as well just tell them to hold the ticket because it ain't coming in. I don't know what it is. So we kind of tread real lightly with those noon games. But you see anything early, Scott?
Nothing crazy that I can really speak about. I'm a pretty big guy on NC State, though. I mean, I like NC State. They're playing at Boston College. Not that Boston College is a bad team, but I think NC State's a much higher representative team than what they've played so far. They haven't played up to what they can be. Not that Clemson has either. There's all kinds of teams that you can say that about. But I do think that that line against Boston College, I'll have to look at a little bit. I also think the line in the Nebraska-Minnesota game tomorrow is a little odd. That line opened Nebraska -2. It's now 4.5. So that means it's gone through the key number of 3. It's on through the key number of 4, and they're still betting it. So if that's the case, I might look at that way too. And what I'm looking at kind of interesting there because the number's going up and the money keeps coming in on Minnesota.
And I was just going to say, it's funny you say that because Pinnacle's up to 5.5 right now.
Hey.
and everyone, listen, my all-time favorite team, that. I'm a Coach Tom Osborne guy, run that wishbone, Irvin Fryer, Tommy Frazier, back in the days when I always say this story. It's 4th and 8. They're telling you they're running the ball. Hey, we're lined up in the wishbone. We're running the ball, and you couldn't stop it. And that's I'm smiling because that's the football that I enjoy. That's the football that I like to remember the most. And it's funny you talked about NC State. They caught my eye. BC's a great story. They've had a hell of a year. I think they're due for a little hiccup, though. They fought Clemson hard. And if I'm just doing this off the top of my head, I think they might be coming off a bye week as well because I don't think they played last week.
Did you see the betting numbers in that one?
No, I haven't.
Look at Boston College money coming in. But look at the line.
Yeah, 2-3. No, we're on to something. So everyone here listening, guys, listen. We're going to be back tomorrow morning. We're going to get you guys lathered up to see what the overnight numbers have done. We're already on a couple of hint games for you guys for tomorrow. If you forgot what we just said, just rewind it about 2-3 minutes. Scotty talked early tonight for the guys just jumping on right now. Take a look at Clemson in game. Take a look at the first couple drives. Coming off a bye. Offensively, we think they're going to be ready. So you can dig into that number. And Scotty talked about the under in the Cal-Oregon game as well. I was looking to throw you guys something here in the hockey. Nothing's jumping out. We've had some great winners here this week at night. And I wanted to throw you something as well. But stick to what Scotty's talking about. If you guys have any questions, both of our DMs are open at EC Sports Invest on Twitter, and Scotty's at Webby20MLB on Twitter. We're here to educate. We're here to answer questions. We're not here to entertain. We love all the comments from Billy, from Nando tonight. Much, much appreciated. Look forward to seeing everyone in the morning. Best of luck on your tickets tonight. Always invest and wager wisely. And best of luck, and we'll see you in the morning.